Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, June 30th, and I'm out walking to the river this morning. Just got back from a lovely camping trip, a little getaway this weekend, and it felt really good to just get away safely. We were able to practice good social distancing and just enjoy being away for a few days. But it feels good to be home, as always. Today I'm walking to the river. I'm just kind of marveling at how the landscape has changed since the last time I walked down here. The grass is so much taller. You know, a few months ago when I first started walking back here, it was very short. The field was completely clear. Now it's tall grass. It's up almost to my shoulder, some of it. And it's just filled with these beautiful little flowers. Beautiful. Landscape changes. The landscape of our lives changes too. Look at how different the world is. How it has changed in the last 3 months. But here we are, and there's beauty to be found in every phase, in every part of our lives. Even the parts that we feel are trials and difficult. There is incredible beauty, and we discover new things, right? So here I am walking to the river, and I've been reflecting on Zechariah. We don't get to hear much from the prophet Zechariah, but it's actually one of our readings this week in the lectionary. And I thought I'd share with you some reflections because Zechariah is sort of unique. You know, we often talk about the prophets, and they have incredible things to say, right? Beautiful, some of the most beautiful, most powerful words we have from our sacred text, from the Bible. We pull from the prophets, right? From Micah. What does the Lord require of you? Act justly, walk humbly, love God. From Amos, let justice roll down like water. From Isaiah, the beautiful passage, Isaiah, where the sheep shall lay down with the wolves. Some of the most powerful words come from our prophets, and we love them. But here's the thing. Prophets often sound pretty doom and gloomy, right? As we've been studying the group, our little Wednesday group, we've been reading Jeremiah and talking a lot about what that means in our modern context. And you know, I think part of what's hard about the prophets is they challenge us, but they also sometimes can feel like hopeless, and you feel like, where's the hope? But here's Zechariah, this prophet who's a contemporary of the prophet Haggai, what we consider one of the 12 minor prophets. That's a grouping of prophets that they're minor because they're short little books, unlike Isaiah and Jeremiah and some of the others. It's just short little books, so they're called minor prophets. And Zechariah is writing at a time, we think, at least, I'll tell you what, chapter 9, which is the chapter I'm looking at today, chapters 9 through 14 in Zechariah are really about hope. Chapter 9 especially, it's about hope. He's offering hope to the people of Israel. The people of Israel who, it's post-exile, right? They are starting to return to Jerusalem. Jerusalemites. They're starting to return after 70 years of exile. And they have to figure out how to rebuild. They have to figure out what it means to come together and be one community, one people again, after they've been living apart and away from each other. And in that being away from each other, they've been exposed to different kinds of things and found different ways of living that aren't that don't work with the old ways anymore. And so they have to reconcile, what does that really mean? How can we become one people again? And also, the threats, the worldly threats, are not really gone. There's new powers building. There's the threat to Jerusalem, to Israel. It's still there. There's just new enemies, new things to worry about. How do we come together and be the faithful people living in God's covenant? So Zechariah writes some hopeful words. So I thought I'd share them with you, because it seems like a pretty timely thing for us to talk about. Zechariah 9, verses 9 through 13. Rejoice greatly, O daughter Zion. Shout aloud, O daughter Jerusalem. Lo, your king comes to you. Triumphant and victorious is he, humble and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey. He will cut off the chariot from Ephraim and the war horse from Jerusalem, and the battle bow shall be cut off. And he shall command peace to the nations. His dominion shall be from sea to sea, and from the river to the ends of the earth. As for you, also become of the blood of my covenant with you. I will set your prisoners free from the waterless pit. Return to your stronghold, O prisoners of hope. Today I declare that I will restore to you double, for I have bent Judah as my bow. I have made Ephraim its arrow. I will arouse your sons, O Zion, against your sons, O Greece, and wield you like a warrior's sword. Does that sound familiar to you a little bit? That imagery of a new king riding into Jerusalem from the line of David, riding in to Jerusalem humbly on a colt, well, on a donkey, on the colt of a donkey. Humbly, it says. Does that sound familiar? Does it kind of take you back to that entrance scene? That scene where Jesus enters Jerusalem on a donkey? Some of the versions a colt. We always like to make it, the peaceful domicile, little peaceful Jesus riding in. But, here's the thing. Jesus' first act when he gets into the city is to take a look around, walk over to the temple, take a look around, and leave quietly. And then he comes back the next day and he walks straight to the temple in the midst of all the activity, and he overturns all those tables and he just disrupts everything. And that doesn't seem really peaceful and humble. So what does it really mean? So I wanted to share with you, this word humble that is being translated as humble. Actually, it's from the Hebrew, ani, and it actually means destitute or vulnerable, socially vulnerable, poor. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting if you think about that? The the humble king will return. That really means that the true king, the line of David, which actually, the line of David, it's a very common image. The line of David, Davidic kings are always pictured riding on colts, the donkeys, colts. So it's not humble and meek, it's about being a person who is rising up from the poorest of the poor, from the vulnerable, who brings a new kind of peace. Man, that's pretty hopeful, I think, that this new kind of peace. Because it's not okay. Peace is not, just having things be calm isn't true peace. That's not the peace of Christ that passes all of understanding. That's not the peace that Zechariah is talking about. Let's just all be calm. As long as there isn't rioting and violence, then we have peace. But that's not true. Peace, God's peace, the kind of peace that Jesus is talking about, the kind of peace that Zechariah is talking about, is peace with justice. What does that mean? That means equity for all, equality for all. And if we're willing to settle for anything less, then we are following a type of Christianity that is not the way of Jesus. If you're willing to settle for just things being calm, let's just keep the landscape the same. We're okay with a little bit of prejudice. We're okay with a little bit of inequity. We're okay because we just want peace. And we feel okay. So we don't have to worry too much about how somebody else feels. But that's not the message. And the real hope is that in the midst of all of this division, in the midst of all that is happening in our world, real change, that change that's happening from the humblest places, right? Those voices from the humblest places, impoverished, prisoners, people who have been imprisoned unjustly. Zechariah says, God says, I will set those prisoners free. That's my kind of realm. We're not going to have people being oppressed, imprisoned, and put down, not in God's realm. In God's realm, there's justice and equity for all. Well, that's just good news to me. It makes my heart sing on this beautiful day. It's overcast and slightly cool, and the river is beautiful as always. It's been a while since I walked down all the way down. It's still here. God is with us in our darkest, most painful places. And it is through God's love, through God's peace, and our willingness to accept that kind of peace, to lay down all the weapons of war, whether those be words that we carry in our heart, whether those be actual weapons of destruction, that when we're willing to let go of that kind of fear that drives us to hold on to that, when we're willing to truly embrace God's peace, then God's peace will come. The gates are opened. I pray that it is so, and may you find true peace this day and in this week. We'll talk again soon.